The human prisoner was dragged across the cold stone floor, his hands tied with glowing alien chains. Guards with tall spears pushed him forward, their reptilian faces showing no mercy. He stumbled but kept walking, because behind him a spear tip was ready to pierce his back. The chamber was huge, dark, and filled with strange glowing plants that looked alive. At the far end sat the alien queen, her throne made of black crystal, her body larger than any human had ever seen. Her eyes burned like fire, and her crown was not of gold but of bone, taken from enemies long dead. The human felt his chest tighten, because he knew this was not a place where anyone walked out alive. The guards forced him to his knees, his head pressed to the ground. The queen's voice echoed across the chamber, deep and sharp. "Human, you stand before me as nothing more than prey." Her words cut through him, but he stayed silent, because silence was safer than speaking. The queen leaned forward, her claws scratching the armrest of her throne. Many begged for life, many promised loyalty. And still, they died. The human swallowed hard, his throat dry. Then her voice changed, heavy with something more than hate. "But I will give you a chance, a different fate." The prisoner lifted his eyes, confused, because no human had ever heard the word chance from an alien queen. The guards stepped back, and the chamber grew quieter. The glowing plants flickered as if listening. The queen raised one clawed finger toward the shadows behind her throne. "You will spend one night with my daughter." The human blinked, unsure. If he had heard correctly, the queen's voice grew sharper. "If you survive until morning, I will spare your life." The silence that followed was heavy. The human's heart pounded, his mind racing. Her daughter, he thought. What does that mean? No one dared speak against the queen, not even her own guards. He tried to find words, but his mouth stayed dry. The queen's smile showed her sharp teeth. "You look surprised, human. Do you think it will be easy?" The guards laughed softly, their voices like broken glass. The queen stood tall, her shadow covering him completely. "My daughter is no weak child. She carries the blood of hunters. She will not hold back." The human's chest tightened. He realized this was not kindness. This was a game, a test, maybe even a slow death. The queen leaned closer, her burning eyes locking on his. "Survive the night, and I will set you free. Fail, and your body will become food for the beasts." The human clenched his fists. The glowing chains burned his skin. His mind screamed to refuse, but his voice betrayed him. "I accept," he whispered. The queen laughed. The sound shook the walls. Challenge accepted. The guards pulled him to his feet and dragged him toward a dark passage. The air grew colder as they walked. Torches lit the stone walls, casting shadows that moved like spirits. Finally, the guards stopped at a massive iron door covered with strange carvings. One guard whispered in his alien tongue, almost like a prayer. Then they opened the door. The human was pushed inside, the chains falling off as the door slammed shut behind him. The room was huge, like an underground cave. Glowing mushrooms lit the walls. Dripping water echoed. The human turned slowly, every sound making him tense. Then he felt it, eyes watching him from the darkness. A low growl came from the shadows, soft but sharp enough to freeze his blood. His heart raced, his hands shaking as he looked into the darkness. A figure moved, tall, graceful, and dangerous. The alien princess stepped forward, her skin glowing faintly under the strange light, her eyes bright and unblinking. She looked young but powerful, her claws long, her stance like a predator ready to strike. The human stepped back, but there was nowhere to run. Her voice was softer than the queen's, but still filled with strength. "So you are the one Mother chose." Her words made his stomach twist. She was not here to protect him. She was here to test him. She walked in a circle around him, her eyes never leaving his. "Survive the night," she whispered, "if you can." The human stood frozen, sweat running down his back. He realized this was only the beginning. The true challenge had just started. And the night was long, very long. The human stood still, his back pressed against the damp stone wall. The alien princess circled him slowly, her movements smooth like a predator hunting in silence. Her glowing eyes followed every breath he took, every twitch of his fingers. He could feel her curiosity, but also her hunger, a strange mix of danger and mystery. Her voice cut through the silence, soft but sharp. "You look weaker than I expected." The words stung, but he kept quiet, knowing that anger would only feed her pride. She tilted her head, her long claws glinting in the dim light. "Do you plan to scream when I strike? Or will you stay quiet like prey?" The human's chest rose and fell faster, but he forced himself to stand tall. "I don't plan to die tonight," he said, his voice low but steady. The princess's lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. Brave words for someone trapped. Her presence filled the space around him, pressing against his mind like an invisible weight. She leaned closer, close enough for him to see the faint patterns on her skin, like markings of a warrior's bloodline. "Mother gave you a chance, but she does not care if you survive," she whispered, her breath colder than the cave air. The human swallowed hard. "And what about you?" he asked, her eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. "I care only to test your spirit, nothing more." A sudden sound echoed from the shadows, a hiss wet and sharp. The human turned quickly, his instincts screaming danger. From a crack in the cave wall, small creatures crawled out, their bodies covered with slime and jagged teeth. The princess did not flinch. She only stepped back to watch. The creatures rushed toward the human, their mouths snapping, claws scraping against the stone floor. He grabbed a broken shard of rock from the ground. Gripping it like a knife, one of the beasts leapt at him, its teeth aiming for his throat. He swung hard, slashing its face. The creature screamed and fell. Another jumped, and he kicked it back, his body shaking with adrenaline. The princess's eyes glittered as she watched him fight, her expression unreadable. "Not bad," she whispered, though her claws twitched as if she wanted to test him herself. The human's arm ached, his legs trembling, but he refused to fall. The last beast lunged, faster than the others, its jaws wide open. He rolled to the side and stabbed the shard into its neck. Dark blood splattered across the stone. The beast fell still. The sound of dripping echoed in the silence that followed. The human gasped for air, sweat dripping from his face. The princess stepped closer, her eyes never leaving him. "You fight like prey trying to be predator," she said, her voice calm, almost mocking. He dropped the shard, his hands shaking. "And yet, I'm still alive. For the first time." Her lips curved into a small, almost human smile. "Alive, yes, but the night has only just begun." She walked past him, her claws brushing lightly against the stone wall, sparks of energy flickering where she touched. The human followed with his eyes, not daring to turn his back on her. She stopped near the center of the chamber, her gaze lifting toward the cracks in the ceiling where faint moonlight filtered through. "Do you know why Mother gave you this challenge?" she asked. He shook his head, his throat too dry for words. The princess turned slowly, her eyes burning with something strange, not hatred, not mercy, but something else. "She wants to see if a human can endure what even our kind fears," she said, her voice heavy. The human's heart raced. "And what is that?" he asked. The ground trembled slightly, dust falling from the ceiling. The princess's expression grew dark. "The beasts you killed were nothing. Soon, the real hunters will come." His stomach tightened, his mind filled with dread. But she did not attack him. Not yet. Instead, she walked closer again, standing just an arm's length away. Her eyes searched his, as if looking deep into his spirit. "You are not like the others we captured," she whispered. "They begged. They cried. You do not." He stayed silent, afraid that any answer would break the strange balance forming between them. Her claws lowered, not striking but brushing lightly against his wrist, cold and sharp. "Perhaps this night will be more interesting than I thought," she said, her voice carrying both promise and threat. The human's breath caught in his chest. He realized the danger was not only the monsters lurking in the shadows. The true danger was her, the princess, who could kill him in an instant. But chose instead to play this game, and in her eyes, glowing like twin flames, he saw something that terrified him more than death. Curiosity. The night was far from over, and the real test was just beginning. The air inside the chamber grew heavy, thicker with every breath. The human could hear drops of water falling from the ceiling, echoing like the ticking of a clock, reminding him that the night was long and full of dangers. The alien princess moved ahead, her body language calm but her eyes sharp, as if she already knew something was coming. The human followed slowly, his legs weak from the last fight, his ears tuned to every small sound. Suddenly, a deep growl rolled through the cave, low and powerful. Shaking the ground under his feet, the human froze, his heart beating faster, while the princess tilted her head with a small smile. "Now the real test begins," she whispered, from the shadows. Two large beasts crawled into sight, their bodies covered in thick armor-like scales, their mouths lined with jagged teeth, drool dripping to the floor. The beasts moved in sync, circling both the human and the princess, their glowing eyes locked on them like hunters preparing to strike. The human grabbed another rock shard from the floor, his hands shaking. The princess stretched her arms, her claws extending fully, sharp and gleaming. Without warning, the first beast lunged at the human, its jaws snapping just inches from his chest. He jumped back, stumbling but keeping his balance, swinging the shard desperately at its face. The shard scratched its hide but did little damage. The beast roared, furious. The second beast rushed at the princess, but she moved with speed that blurred her form, her claws slicing across its neck, sparks flying as she struck through its armored skin. The beast staggered but did not fall, its blood dripping thick and dark. The human tried to keep his eyes on both creatures, his chest burning with fear. The princess shouted without looking at him, "Do not freeze, fight." The human gritted his teeth and charged at the first beast, aiming for its eye. The shard stabbed deep. The creature howled and slammed its body into him, sending him flying across the stone floor. Pain shot through his back, but he forced himself up, coughing and bleeding. The beast turned again, charging for the final strike. At the last moment, the princess leapt between them, slashing its face open with both claws. Forcing it back, her roar echoed like thunder. Shaking the walls, the second beast leapt again, tackling her to the ground. The human saw her pinned, her claws thrashing but trapped under its heavy body. For a moment, he hesitated, fear chaining his legs, but then he pushed himself forward, grabbing a loose spear that one of the guards must have left behind long ago. He sprinted toward the beast, his body moving before his mind could stop him. With a scream, he drove the spear into its side, the tip piercing through its ribs. The beast shrieked in pain, twisting wildly, but the human held on with all his strength. The princess used the chance to push it off and slash its throat, ending it in a spray of dark blood. She rolled back onto her feet, breathing heavy, her eyes flicking to him. The first beast, still alive, rushed once more, desperate and furious. The human braced himself, but this time, the princess was faster. She leapt high, landing on its back, driving her claws deep into its neck, twisting until the creature collapsed to the ground with a final roar. Silence fell over the cave, broken only by the sound of dripping water and their heavy breaths. The human dropped the broken spear, his arms trembling, his chest rising and falling quickly. The princess stood tall, her body glowing faintly under the mushroom's light, her chest rising with the thrill of the fight. Her eyes locked on him, no longer mocking but studying, almost thoughtful. "You are not as weak as I thought," she said finally, her voice low. The human wiped blood from his mouth, forcing a shaky smile. "And you are not as merciless as I thought." For a moment, something strange passed between them. Not friendship, not trust, but something in between. She turned away quickly, hiding her expression. "Do not mistake survival for victory," she said coldly. The human nodded, though inside he felt a small fire, a sense that maybe he had proved himself, if only for a moment. The cave trembled suddenly. Dust falling from the ceiling again. The princess's face hardened, her claws ready once more. "That was only the beginning," she whispered, her eyes narrowing at the dark passage ahead. The human's breath caught, because he realized she was right. If the beast so far were only the start, then the real nightmare had not yet come. He clenched his fists, his body aching but his spirit alive. The night was far from over, and the first attack was only a warning of what awaited asterisk. The silence after the battle felt heavier than the fight itself. The human leaned against the wall, his chest rising fast, his hands still shaking from the clash. Across from him, the alien princess stood straight, her breathing calm, but her glowing eyes unsettled. For the first time she was not mocking him, not testing him with words. Instead she only watched, as if trying to understand something she had never seen before. The human wiped sweat from his brow, his voice rough. "If you hadn't stepped in, I would be dead." The princess tilted her head slightly, her sharp features unreadable. "And if you had not stabbed the beast, I would be crushed." Her words surprised him. They almost sounded like respect, though she covered it quickly with a cold tone. "Do not think we are allies," she added, her claws flexing. "I simply do not want my night wasted by weak company." The human gave a weak laugh, his voice shaking. "Then maybe I'm not as weak as you thought." She narrowed her eyes, but there was no anger in them this time, only curiosity. The ground trembled again, a low rumble spreading through the cave. The princess stepped closer, her voice quieter. "The beasts are drawn to sound and blood. The more we fight, the more will come." The human frowned, his mind racing. "Then how do we survive until morning?" She studied him, her gaze sharp as knives. "By fighting smart, not loud. By moving together." The human blinked, surprised. "Together." Her expression hardened. "Do not mistake this for friendship, human. This is survival, only survival." Still, the words "moving together" gave him a small spark of hope. They walked deeper into the cavern, the glowing mushrooms giving faint light, shadows dancing along the walls like spirits. The princess moved with grace, silent as a hunter, while the human stumbled behind, careful not to trip. "Keep your steps lighter," she whispered. "The ground listens here," he tried, though his boots scraped against the stone, making her glance back with mild irritation. As they walked, the human noticed strange carvings on the walls, symbols like spirals and claws. Old and weathered, he touched one lightly, whispering, "What are these?" The princess paused, her eyes narrowing. "The marks of trials. This chamber has been used before, for tests like yours." His chest tightened. "Tests, you mean others were brought here before me?" She gave a small nod, her voice flat. "Yes, none lived, not one." Her words sent a chill down his spine, but also lit a stubborn fire inside him. "Then I'll be the first," he said quietly, more to himself than to her. The princess glanced at him again, her glowing eyes softer for a heartbeat. Before her usual sharpness returned, they reached a wider chamber, where streams of glowing liquid ran along the floor like rivers of light. The human crouched down, staring at the strange flow. "What is this?" The princess knelt beside him, her claws dipping into the glow. "Lifeblood of the mountain. It feeds the beasts. It feeds the queen's power." Her tone was calm, but he caught something beneath it, a hint of bitterness. "You don't like this place," he said slowly. Her head turned sharply toward him. "It is not for you to know what I like," she snapped, then softened slightly. "But no one enjoys being tested by their own mother." The human's heart skipped, the words carrying more weight than he expected. She stood quickly, her sharp tone returning. "We move. The night is not patient." They crossed the glowing streams carefully, stepping on stones to avoid the liquid, which hissed when touched. As they moved forward, a sudden noise echoed footsteps, many of them, heavy and fast. The princess hissed. "Hunters!" From the darkness ahead, tall creatures emerged, their bodies lean and fast, their eyes glowing red. They carried bone-like weapons, screeching as they approached. The human raised his fists, though fear pulled at his stomach. The princess stepped beside him, her voice low but steady. "Do not run, stand with me." For the first time, she placed herself shoulder to shoulder with him, their shadows joining on the wall. The hunters charged, their screams piercing the cave. The princess struck first, slashing one across the chest, her movements sharp and precise. The human fought clumsily, using another stone shard, blocking blows with desperate strength. Together they pushed back the wave, their movements unplanned yet strangely in rhythm. The human's arm ached, blood dripping down his sleeve, but the princess's presence kept him from collapsing. When the last hunter fell, silence returned, heavy and sharp. The princess turned to him, her body scratched but standing strong. Her eyes searched his, and for once, there was no mocking, no coldness. "Perhaps," she whispered, "perhaps you are more than prey." The human breathed heavily, his voice weak but steady, and, "Perhaps you are more than a monster." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the cave holding its breath. Then the princess stepped back, her tone cold again but not cruel. "We will survive the night, but only if you keep fighting like this." The human nodded, his spirit lifting. "Then we fight together." The princess gave no answer, but the faintest flicker of a smile crossed her lips before she turned away. The uneasy alliance had begun, fragile but alive, and in that fragile bond lay their only hope for dawn. The cavern grew darker as they moved deeper, the glowing mushrooms thinning out until only faint light guided their steps. The human's body ached, every breath burning his lungs, yet his spirit held firm. Beside him, the alien princess walked, silently, her claws still stained with the blood of the hunters they had fought. Her steps were graceful, yet her eyes were restless, scanning every shadow as if searching for something more than enemies. The human broke the silence, his voice low. "These monsters, these traps. It feels like this place was made for more than killing." The princess stopped, her glowing eyes turning toward him. "You notice more than most prey," she whispered. She ran her claws along the stone wall, tracing old markings carved deep into the rock. "These walls tell stories," she said quietly. "Stories of trials long before you. Trials for my kind, not yours." The human stepped closer, studying the carvings, spirals, claws, and strange figures locked in combat. "So your people were tested too?" he asked. The princess nodded, her expression colder. "Yes, this chamber is sacred. It was once where young heirs proved their worth. Only those who survived the night were seen as true hunters." Her voice carried bitterness, like old wounds hidden beneath pride. The human's heart sank. "So your mother put me here not just to punish me, but to put you through the same trial." Her eyes flickered, glowing brighter. "You begin to understand." The silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken truths. The human swallowed hard. "She doesn't just want me dead. She wants to test you too, doesn't she?" The princess turned away, her jaw tightening. "She wants to see if I can lead, if I can command fear, if I can tame even a human." Her claws dug lightly into the stone wall, sparks of energy flickering from her fingertips. The human felt anger rising in him. Anger not only for his own life, but for the cruel game they were forced to play. "She's using us both," he whispered. The princess looked back at him, her expression torn between pride and something softer. "And yet, only one of us can truly win." Her words struck like a blade. The ground trembled again, this time stronger, shaking dust and stone from above. The princess stiffened, her eyes narrowing. "The real trial begins now," she said, her voice sharp, from the shadows ahead. A massive gate carved of bone began to open, the sound echoing like thunder. The human stepped back, his chest tightening. "What's behind that?" The princess's face was unreadable, the heart of the test. "What mother has hidden, what even I fear." The gate opened fully, revealing a vast chamber lit by rivers of glowing liquid, the same strange lifeblood they had seen before. In The center stood a monstrous statue, half stone, half bone, shaped like a predator with wings. The human stared, his voice trembling. "What is that?" The princess's claws tightened. "It is no statue, it is a guardian, a beast bound to this place." As if hearing her words, the creature's stone eyes flared with light, cracks forming across its body as it began to move. The ground shook as it stepped forward, its wings unfolding with a roar that shook the cavern. The human's legs felt weak, fear flooding through him. The princess placed herself in front of him, her voice sharp. "Do not run. If you run, it will tear you apart. If you stand, you may live." The beast roared again, its voice like storms colliding. The human gripped a broken spear he had kept, sweat dripping down his face. The princess crouched low, ready to strike. Her glowing eyes locked on the beast. They fought side by side as the creature charged, its claws smashing stone like paper. The princess leapt high, slashing across its shoulder, sparks flying. The human dove to the side, stabbing at its leg with the spear, the tip breaking but cutting deep enough to slow it. The beast howled, turning its burning eyes on him. He froze. But the princess shouted, "Move!" He rolled away just as its claw slammed down, shattering the ground where he stood. The fight dragged on, every strike shaking the cavern, every scream echoing like thunder. Finally together, they drove the beast back toward the glowing river. With one last desperate strike, the human shoved the broken spear into its chest while the princess tore into its throat. The guardian staggered, its body cracking with light before collapsing into the glowing liquid. Sinking slowly until only silence remained, the human collapsed to his knees, his chest heaving. The princess stood above him, breathing hard, her body covered in scratches and blood. For a moment, she said nothing, only watched him with eyes that burned with more than pride. Finally she spoke, her voice quiet, but heavy. "You see now, this was never only about you. It was about me. It was about whether I could lead with strength or with something else." The human lifted his head, his voice weak. "And what did you learn?" Her eyes softened for a breath. "That survival is not always won alone." The words hung in the air, fragile and dangerous, because if the queen heard them, she would not forgive. The human felt a shiver, realizing the test was no longer about Dawn. It was about truth, and truth could kill them both. Asterisk.
The cavern trembled long after the guardian beast had fallen, the sound of cracking stone echoing in the darkness. The human sat on the ground, clutching his side where blood seeped slowly through torn fabric, his breathing sharp and uneven. The princess stood nearby, her claws dripping. Her glowing eyes narrowed not at him but at the shadows ahead. She whispered something in her own tongue, low and tense as though she already knew what was coming next. The human looked up, his voice weak. "Is it over?" The princess shook her head, her tone flat and cold. "No. Mother never ends a trial so easily. There is always one last challenge, the true test." Her words sank heavy into the air. The ground split open before them, glowing cracks spreading. Across the chamber floor, like burning veins, from deep below, came a roar unlike any they had heard before. Louder, darker, filled with pure rage, the human's stomach twisted, his body screaming to run. Yet he knew there was no escape. The princess stepped forward, her body tense, her claws extending, her face hard like carved stone. "He is here," she whispered, "the final guardian, the one even I feared." The cavern walls shook as a massive beast emerged from the chasm, its body twice the size of the guardian they had fought earlier, skin covered in black armor that shimmered with the glow of molten veins. Its head was crowned with horns, and its eyes burned red like twin suns. The human's chest tightened, his throat dry. How do we kill that?" The princess did not look at him. Her gaze locked on the monster. "We don't kill it, we survive it. That is the queen's true test." The beast roared, the force shaking the air itself, knocking loose stones from the ceiling. The human stumbled back, his legs shaking. The princess leapt forward, striking its leg with a slash that sparked but barely scratched. The beast swung its massive claws, smashing the ground where she had been standing. Sending waves of stone flying, the human dove aside, grabbing a half-broken spear from the rubble. He shouted, his voice breaking, "If we can't kill it, how? Do we survive?" The princess growled, dodging another strike. "By showing Mother that prey and predator can stand together." By showing something she does not expect, the words struck him with strange clarity. This was not just about blood and strength, it was about unity. The beast roared again, its tail whipping through the air, knocking the human across the chamber, his back slamming against stone. Pain exploded through his body, his vision blurring. The princess shouted his name the first time she had spoken it, her voice raw with something close to fear. He forced himself up, spitting blood, gripping the broken spear tighter. The beast charged, its claws raised, its mouth opening to reveal rows of burning teeth. The princess darted in front of him, slashing across its face, her claws glowing faintly as she struck with all her strength. The human lunged at the same time, driving the spear into its other eye. The force of both their strikes making the monster reel back. Roaring in fury, the chamber shook violently, the glowing veins across the beast's body pulsing faster. "It's going to bring the cavern down?" the human gasped. The princess's glowing eyes turned sharp. "Then we make our stand here." The monster slammed its claw again, shattering the stone floor, sending cracks racing toward them. The human grabbed a loose chain from the ground, a relic of past trials, and wrapped it around one of the beast's legs. He shouted, "Pull," and the princess lunged, grabbing the chain with claws and dragging it deeper into the glowing river. Together, they forced the beast's leg into the burning liquid. The creature roared in pain, thrashing wildly, the molten glow burning through its armor. The princess leaped onto its back, slashing its horns, forcing its head down. The human pulled the chain tighter, the glowing river hissing as it rose higher. With a final scream, the monster fell, crashing into the molten stream, its body breaking apart as the glowing veins inside it burst. The explosion shook the cavern, heat rushing over them like fire. The human fell to his knees, gasping. The chain slipping from his hands, the princess collapsed beside him, her body trembling but still upright. For a long moment neither spoke. The only sound, the fading roar of the beast as it dissolved into the glowing river. Finally, the princess turned to him, her glowing eyes softer, tired but alive. "You risked your life," she said, her voice low, almost questioning. He gave a broken laugh, his voice weak. "You risked yours too, for the first time." She did not deny it. Instead, she looked at him with something unspoken, something fragile. Perhaps this was Mother's true fear. She whispered that prey and predator could fight as one. The human leaned back, his body exhausted, his chest rising and falling slowly. He realized she was right. The queen had not only tested survival, she had tested unity, and against all odds. They had passed, but the night was not over, and the dawn would bring judgment. The jungle planet was alive with sounds. Strange birds screamed from the tall black trees, insects buzzed like electric wires, and shadows moved under the silver light of two moons. In the middle of this wild place, the predator returned to its den. Its heavy steps crushed leaves, and its yellow eyes glowed like fire. It carried the smell of blood from the hunt, the promise of food for its young. But when it reached the nest made of bones and branches, the place was empty. The cubs were gone. No soft growls, no tiny claws scratching at the ground, only silence. A silence that felt wrong. A silence that filled the predator with rage. The beast lifted its head and roared. The cry shook through the jungle, and every smaller creature hid. The roar was a warning and a question. It demanded an answer from the night. "Where are my cubs?" The predator sniffed the ground, its sharp senses searching for trails. The air carried many smells: smoke, fire, blood, and something strange. The strange scent did not belong to the jungle. It was sharper, thinner. It belonged to something unnatural, something alien. The predator knew it was the smell of a human, far away at the edge of a small clearing. The human explorer sat beside a small fire. His clothes were torn, his face dirty. His ship had crashed weeks ago, and now the jungle was his only home. He listened to the roar echoing in the distance. The sound made his skin crawl. He did not know what it was, but he felt the weight of danger. He leaned back against a broken log, tired from the day. He closed his eyes, telling himself the fire would keep him safe, but deep inside he knew the fire was small and weak, and the jungle was big and full of eyes, back at the den. The predator's claws ripped into the ground. It searched for signs. It found broken leaves, soft prints in the dirt, the tiny steps of cubs, mixed with the heavier tracks of something else. Something walking on two legs. The trail was clear. And the predator growled low in its throat. The human had taken them, or perhaps the human had killed them. Either way, the predator would find the truth. The night grew darker. The moon sank. Lower, the human stirred in his sleep, dreaming of home, dreaming of safety. But the jungle whispered to him. Leaves rustled when no wind moved. Branches snapped in the distance. Eyes glowed for a moment and then disappeared. He turned on his side, trying to ignore the sounds. He told himself it was only animals, only the jungle. But he could not escape the feeling that something was watching. The predator moved like a shadow through the trees. Its massive body made no sound. Its eyes scanned the forest floor. The trail grew stronger. And with every step, the anger inside it grew. The thought of its cubs in danger filled it with fury. If they were harmed, it would tear the human apart piece by piece. But the truth was stranger. The cubs were not harmed. They were not crying. Not lost. Not afraid. They had found something unusual. Something they had never felt before: warmth, safety, and a slow, calm heartbeat. They had curled into it, pressing their tiny bodies against it, and now they slept in peace. Their claws tucked under their soft bellies, their sharp teeth hidden. The human did not know. Not yet. His chest rose and fell with tired breath. His arms lay limp at his sides. And there, resting against him, two alien cubs slept as if they had always belonged to him. Their fur tickled against his shirt. One of them gave a tiny snore. And the human only sighed in his sleep, unaware of the danger this simple moment had created. The jungle grew quiet, as if holding its breath. The night waited. The fire cracked softly, throwing sparks into the dark. Far away, the predator climbed higher ground, its senses burning with purpose. It was close now, very close. Soon it would find the cubs, and when it did, blood would follow. The moons hid behind clouds, and the clearing where the human slept sank into deeper shadow. The cubs shifted a little but did not wake. The human turned slightly, his hand brushing against soft fur. His eyes opened for a moment, confused. He felt warmth. He heard a sound. Like a soft purr. His tired mind could not make sense of it. He muttered something and drifted back into sleep. The predator roared again, closer this time. The sound cut through the jungle like a blade. The ground seemed to shake with its power. Birds flew into the night sky. Leaves fell from trembling branches. The human woke with a start. His heart racing, he stared into the dark, the sound still echoing in his ears. He had no idea that the roar was for him. He had no idea that the creature's missing children now slept on his chest, and he had no idea that the night was only beginning. The jungle listened. The stars burned cold above, and the story of predator and prey had only just begun.